Welcome to the Legally Speaking podcast. You are now listening to season 6 of the show. I'm your host, Rob Hanna. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Alistair Wells and Shona Wells. Alistair and Shona are co-founders and directors of Tend Legal. Alistair studied law at the University of Liverpool. He was a paralegal at Clifford Chance for 3 years before moving to Woodford Solicitors, where he made partner in 2014. Alistair is a solicitor specialising in company law, commercial law, employment law and dispute resolution. Shona attended the University of Manchester and qualified as a solicitor. Shona is responsible for the management, finance, admin, marketing at Tend Legal. So, a very warm welcome, Alistair and Shona.
Thanks, Rob.
Hi, Rob. Nice to see you.
Great to have you both with us. And before we dive into all your amazing projects and experiences, we have a customary icebreaker question here on the Legally Speaking podcast, which is, on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, if you've seen it, what would you rate the reality hit TV series Suits in terms of its reality? So coming to you first, Shona, if you've seen it, to give us your rating in terms of how real you think it is out of 10.
So I have seen it. It's been a long time since I watched an episode. Reality, I'm saying pretty low, to be honest. I'm going to go about 4.
About 4. Alistair, how about you?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think I'm going to go a bit higher. I'm going to go for 7 because I think there's aspects of it that everyone can relate to, even though the stories are a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll break it down the middle, somewhere between the both of you, somewhere around a 5/6, which I think is fair, and we'll move slowly on to the exciting things all about you both. So to begin with, would you mind telling us a little bit more about your backgrounds and journeys? We'd love to come to you first, Shona, then Alistair.
Sure. So thanks for the introduction. So I used to work once I qualified as a solicitor, I was working in a private client department. So completely different to what we're doing here at Tend. But I finished work, I went on maternity leave with our first child in 2010. And I have not been working as a solicitor while I've been looking after our children. So we've now got 3 children. So coming back to start Tend was a huge change for me. So, but we made the decision, and so I've come back in a more management role, sort of working on the business side, the finance, because obviously this is a completely different area of legal advice that we're giving to where I qualified.
Yeah, and I mean that's inspiring in itself. The fact that you have a young family, you're running the firm, and you're sort of in the thick of it. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Alistair, we'd love to know a bit more about your journey as well.
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, I started out like a lot of people, desperately trying to get a training contract and paralegaling for about 3 years at Clifford Chance, and then qualified with a firm in Fulham called Woodfords, which it's a small firm which does a range of things, a mix of high street, a bit more commercial, a lot of property work, and I kind of found my niche there really within the sort of commercial dispute resolution and employment were the big things I was doing, and a bit of corporate as well, and really was very happy there for a long time. And it was only when the pandemic came that we really thought about doing anything else, and I think a lot of things came together at that time for us. I'd certainly never thought of running my own firm, but yeah, a lot of things came together. We were kind of realising, like a lot of people, I think, how much time I'd been away from home while our kids were small. I think we realised how possible it was to work differently, to work remotely, the tools that were out there that enabled that kind of more flexible working. But also, I think a lot of the thoughts we've been having about how there's a need for change in how legal services are delivered, and all of these things came together, and the fact that, Shona was starting to think about, well, what's the next step for her, going back to work, and all of these things sort of came together at the right time, and we had this idea for Tend.
Yeah, and let's dive into that, because I think that again is remarkable, because during the lockdown of 2020, a lot of people were worried, perhaps a lot of people retreated, but you both decided to put your entrepreneurial, and perhaps risk hats on and say, do you know what, we're going to establish Tend Legal. So, I'm a big fan of the firm, and I've been at events where people speak very highly of Tend and what you're trying to do, and, changing with the times, a lot like previous guests we've had, Stevenson Law, Alice Stevenson and Jodie Hill, Thrive Law, and I really recommend what you're doing in terms of offering a new way of legal services in a modern form, because, my understanding is you've got a strong commercial firm, you're acting for tech, but also creative businesses, startups, scale up. So would you mind, Shona, just telling us a little bit more about Tend Legal generally?
So we started right at the end of 2020, and it was just the two of us sat here with our laptops. We decided to go for a fully remote. We don't have a physical office, so we work from home, and Alistair uses some workspaces up in London as well. So it started off just the two of us, which was a big risk, to be honest, wasn't it? You know, we gave up your steady job, you were a partner, and but we just felt really strongly that we could make it work, and that we would, give it 100% to try and make it work. And so far, so good. So that was where we started. We decided quite quickly that we would like to recruit someone to assist. So we recruited for a paralegal or paralegal/trainee. That was at the start of 2021. And we've just been sort of just trying to grow in a really steady, manageable way since then. So just taking work as it comes in and recruiting when we feel it's the right time, as opposed to trying to grow too fast or do anything too quickly. Just taking it steady, growing quite an organic way. That feels quite natural to us, and it feels manageable as well, which is important.
Yeah, and you're absolutely both doing a great job of that, and I love that sort of way of thinking about things as well, because you see so many businesses when they start up, they're so keen to hire and they don't know why, and sort of they hire so many people so quickly and it doesn't work. So I love this approach that you're taking that's right and in line with your business, and sort of organically growing out along with your brand, which is ever present as well. But Alistair, you'll know as well as being a lawyer, when you run a business, it's never straightforward and there's challenges, and we're always looking to try and understand some of those challenges and maybe advise people if they were thinking of setting up their own firms. So maybe a two-part question, but what were the challenges you faced during Tend Legal, setting up Tend Legal, and then what were the challenges bolted onto that within a pandemic? I hope we never experience these times once again, but what are some of your learnings from that, if we ever did find ourselves in these really interesting markets?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the biggest challenge was making that leap, deciding to actually go ahead with it. And we had this idea in March 2020, and which was obviously in the first lockdown, it was quite a stressful time, but also we had this idea, and somehow we seemed from quite early on, we were very sure that this was the right thing to do. I think I was in a place where I'd been doing the job long enough that I was confident that I could do it, that I could make money doing it, that I had contacts. And I suppose the element of risk was, well, is anyone going to notice that we exist? Are people going to think that this firm, because a lot of what we're doing in terms of how we present, we wanted it to be quite different, so a lot less formal than a traditional firm. We're working with a lot of startups, scale-ups who are, we wanted to be more like them, to be more like the people we're working with, which does involve being different, and that felt like a risk. I mean, I know there were, when we had the photos on for our website, for example, it's very casual. And I remember waking up in the night and thinking, actually, was that a massive mistake, wearing a t-shirt on our photos? And are people just going to laugh at it? And so I think a big part of the challenge was just overcoming those sorts of fears that actually, and it's partly imposter syndrome, it's partly that, when you start anything new, there's always that fear that actually it might not work. So I think that was a big hurdle, just actually getting our heads around it and realising that it was actually a reasonably good idea, a very good idea, I hope. But taking that step and to get to that place, I think we just talked to a lot of people, family, friends, people in the profession, and it, almost without exception, everyone said that's a great idea, yeah. You should do it, which was really encouraging. And so we did. I mean, in terms of setting up, I think, as I say, yeah, another fear was that no one would notice us. We'd particularly, we don't have an office. You can, and I had this fear that we'd just launch a website and there'd just be tumbleweed, that you'd put it out there, but so what? No one knows about us. And so I think from quite early on, once we'd had the idea, I mean, that was really why I started posting stuff on LinkedIn. And I couldn't, because I was still working at my last firm, it wasn't right to start talking about the new project. So it was kind of, I thought, well, if I need to connect with people who are going to be interested in the kind of thing we're going to be doing, so talking about values, about things we wanted to change, just random stuff sometimes, but actually that was really good in finding those people. It allowed us to find the people that would be interested, and that when we actually launched the firm, we could, would be interested to know about that and would follow our journey and hopefully work with us at some point. So that was, yeah, that was another thing we sort of had to deal with. I mean, starting a firm, there's a whole load of admin.
From a practical point of view, yeah.
None of it is actually super hard on its own, but there's just a lot of small jobs, aren't there?
Lining things up up, to get our SRA authorization lining up. I had to get my practicing certificate renewed, and then to get you've got to get the insurance and the PI cover, and you've got to get the quote, and you've got to get various things lined up, and the quote expires after 30 days, and I think we were waiting for something else to come through. So it's just from a practical point of view, that was a bit stressful. Kind of, is it going to come through? Is it going to come through? And then, but there, it worked out, and we were ready for the 1st of December. So.
Yeah, and that's great advice, because it's a process, isn't it? And it's managing that process and having systems in process, to ensure that you can get to the end goal of setting up the firm. And I think just to sort of play on the point, Alice, because it's something I'm passionate about, not only as a sort of entrepreneur, but as a general business person, fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. And the fact is that you took action, and you've made photos that are different, that are unique, but it's also what you want to represent. You're not trying to be in the traditional lane of it's always been suit and tie, suited and booted with this particular shot. It's this is us, this is our firm, this is what we stand for, this is what we believe is right for our client and portfolio, and these are our values. And that's what I just wanted to talk a bit, and you touched on it briefly, and I just want to kind of dig a bit deeper, Shona, as well, because it's something I'm super passionate about, because not only is this good for clients, this is good for people who join firms like you, but overall mental health and well-being, because let's be real, there is real pressure on lawyers, particularly in some of these firms, and their overall well-being has gone down in recent times, and your mission is to build a better, more human, less formal legal experience for startups and scale-ups. So do you just want to talk a little bit more about that, Shona? Because I think it's a really important point that we just need to sort of hammer home.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really important to us the word authentic gets bandied around a lot, but basically the photos show us as ourselves. That's we're not trying to fit into a mold, we're not trying to look different, but that's just who we are. That, and it is we're looking different to other law firms, but it's just showing us as ourselves, and that was really important. And that's really the message that we want to get across, not just to our clients, but also to people who work with us. We're fortunate to have some really great people working for us now, and I think they really feel that. I hope they feel that they can be themselves, that we're all in it together. It's not a question of us being the partners at the top. We're all in it together, we're all working together, and we just really want everyone to feel that they can be themselves, to be open, to tell us what's going on. If they've got, I don't know, childcare issues or appointments, it's no problem. We have work we need to get done, but there's no strict rules about how we work and when we work and how we look, or it's everyone feeling comfortable being themselves, and hopefully that is a real help for everyone's mental health, because let's face it, everyone's got a lot of stresses going on for various different reasons. Everyone's got a lot on their plates, and it's just trying to work in a way that allows people to live their lives and do a job that they hopefully love as well.
And that inevitably will have an impact on retention levels as well, and the way that you approach things, because like you say, to be themselves, that is not one part of your life as being a lawyer, but a full life is family. There's other things, things that go on, and understanding and allowing people to feel comfortable and safe to say, hey, I'm having I need to go and pick up my children, or this has happened, or my mental health isn't good this week, or whatever it may be. Allowing those spaces for people to feel like they can be their true selves. I think once firms understand that, more than just necessarily the salary wars that we're seeing, particularly in some of the larger city firms, I think the more that is sort of hammered home, the far better it would be. And Alistair, you've had a wonderful career, because we've talked and touched on the fact that you were with the solicitors, and you made partner, and you obviously achieved a lot in a short period of time. But what would you say some of your previous experiences as being a solicitor has assisted you in building 10 Legal? And if so, anything in particular you would highlight that might be beneficial for people thinking of setting up?
I think one of the things I suppose that was helpful was training and coming up in a small firm. You have to be very adaptable. You have to be, from an early stage, you have to be quite self-sufficient. You have to get things done quickly and efficiently, and you have to be very good with people. And my experience having worked at Clifford Chance for a bit, that was a great experience as well, but very, very different. I was a tiny part of a big team working for a huge client who I didn't really get to meet very much. And then going to somewhere like Woodford's on the first week, you'd get given a pile of files. I got the support that I needed, absolutely, but I had responsibility for actually getting things done. I had client contact. You saw the impact impact of your work a lot more. And really, I think just getting that exposure in a busy firm and building up experience of dealing with a wide range of things. I kind of often thought, I'm quite unusual, I suppose, these days in that I'm not very specialised as a lawyer. I have sort of 2 or 3 areas that I'm comfortable dealing with, which is unusual, but it sort of, it brought me to a place where I was working with companies, so commercial clients who sort of saw me as their general counsel almost. They'd come to me with any legal problem. Not that I could answer all of them, but I could point them in the direction of somebody else or a colleague, or so I had that breadth actually stood us in quite good stead for starting something new, because we realised, well, that in itself could be a business. The things that I have experience in, and as we sort of grown, we are getting people who are more specialised in those areas, and I can sort of, because I've got familiarity with that, I can help them and oversee what they're doing. But yeah, I think it comes probably being able to deal with people is the biggest skill. You have to, the thing we talk about a lot actually for a law firm is how people feel, and whether that's people who work with us or whether it's clients. We think of law as this really kind of technical, hard subject, and you're delivering, if you're delivering the right advice, it doesn't really matter. But actually, how people, of course it matters that you're giving the right advice, that you're actually doing the job. But how the client feels when they come away is as important as that. And if they're going to come back to you, if they're going to go away feeling like they've been heard, that you understand what their goals are, and that you've put together something to help them achieve that, then they will come back. And similarly with employees and lawyers that are working with us, it's about understanding what they want to achieve as well as what you want them to do for you. But the beauty of, and I suppose it comes back to what we were just saying, but I think the beauty of what's happened since the pandemic is that actually there are all these options for people, and whilst some employers and some firms will be thinking this is a disaster, our employees all saying they want to work from home, and you've got to get them back in the office, and and I appreciate it's difficult if you've got a big office building, but actually it's a massive opportunity, because particularly for a small firm like us, we can't compete. Obviously we can't compete with Magic Circle or City salaries or big firm salaries, but we can compete in lots of other areas. And I think in terms of culture and flexibility, if you can offer someone the opportunity to work in a way that suits them and their family, and recognizing the importance of the other aspects of their life, then that's a massive attraction for them. And I think we just wanted to create a place where we'd be happy working, even if it wasn't our firm. And if we can do that, then I think it's not only is it the right thing to do, but it's also this huge opportunity. And I think it's allowing us to find people who are really good but don't necessarily want to work in a sort of traditional environment.
And yeah, it's so important that you highlight that, because also people sometimes don't grasp the importance of this, but the happier the workforce, also the bank balance suddenly becomes a lot better as well. It is a trickle down effect, and so it's really important that once that culture is established, and I want to talk a little bit more about culture a little bit later on, it's more than just one dynamic. The whole machine of the organization benefit from it. Time for a short break from the show. Are you looking for a way to get your firm working more efficiently and profitably while ensuring a better work-life balance for your team? Well, if you haven't considered our sponsor Clio, I'm here to strongly recommend that you do. I absolutely love working with Clio. Not only is it the world's leading legal practice management and legal client relationship management software, it also has a really solid core mission to transform the legal experience for all, something I personally support. What sets Clio apart for me is their dedication to customer success and support. There are lots of legal softwares out there, but I know from talking to Clio users that their support offering is miles ahead of the rest, with their 24/5 availability via email, in-app chat, and over the phone. Yes, you can actually call in and speak to someone. Clio is also the G2 crowd leader in legal practice management, in comparison to 130 legal practice management softwares, and has been for the last 14 consecutive quarters. G2 Crowd is the world's leading business solutions review website. You can check Clio's full list of features and pricing at www.clio.com/legally-speaking. That's www.clio.com/legally-speaking. Now back to the show. And I guess talking a bit more about processes, because Alistair, in an interview you had with 𝐤𝐢𝐬, you outlined you like the fact that 𝐤𝐤𝐬 is effectively a complete law firm in a box. It offered the most amount of tools we needed to get started straight away. So I know, obviously, Shona, you do a lot of the management of the firm and sort of oversee things. So can you explain further how you've sort of integrated and utilized 𝐤𝐤𝐬 and, you know, the benefits of that to your firm?
Sure. So, I mean, we were really fortunate that once we decided to make this decision to go ahead with Tend and be a fully remote firm, you know, we start looking and there's all sorts of, the technology out there is amazing. So I think Alistair had already heard about 𝐤𝐤𝐬. So we had a look and we ran a trial of it and, you know, found that actually it offered a lot of things we needed to run the law firm. So it's basically our case management system, client and matter directory. We use it for storing all communication. So it's basically our paper file is a digital file. Everything you need is on 𝐤𝐤𝐬. So if someone goes on holiday, you know, everything, all communications, documents, everything to do with the file is all stored in 𝐤𝐤𝐬 and under matters. And it does various, I mean, there's still lots of things that we probably haven't discovered that it does, but there's lots of all the, you know, reports and things that we need are on there. And we link 𝐤𝐤𝐬 with Xero for our business accounting. And we also use, for our client accounting, we use a program called Client with a K, which also syncs with Xero. So it all, with Xero, with 𝐤𝐤𝐬, sorry. So they all sort of work together, they all sync together, and it just makes it really, really seamless, to be honest. We can access what we need from anywhere. You know, we've got our laptops. They do have mobile phone apps as well, which I don't use very often because I try and keep it in one thing. You know, keep work in a box in the laptop. But it just means that as long as we've got a secure internet connection, you know, you work up from London sometimes, or we can take the laptops away if we need to go away. You can come with us, and we can just access what we need, and we know that we're not going to be, I can't find that information. It's all there. You know, what we need is there.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. No, that's great, and you know, I love that. You know, what Tend Legal is a tech-enabled firm, right? You're using technology wherever possible to cut out mindless admin, which I absolutely agree with. I'm a big fan of tech and massively into Web3 and NFTs and all of that good stuff. Have you incorporated any other sort of legal tech or any other pieces in tech that you think might be helpful for people to know or have worked well for you in addition to the likes of 𝐤𝐤𝐬?
We use a few things. So we use a software called 𝐿EGL, 𝐿EGL, for onboarding, and that's so it does ID verification, it does AML checks. You can use it to get clients to sign engagement letters. So it's quite a slick thing. Once the clients once we've had that conversation, the client wants to go ahead, we can just send them a link. They go onto this 𝐸ngage platform, which is branded up with our brand, and they can they have to do their ID. There's it takes a video of them to check they're actually alive, and then which is always a bonus for clients.
It's good.
Always help.
And then they sign the engagement letter. They can make a payment through the platform as well. So it's just that kind of making things as seamless and as smooth as possible for clients, rather than saying, you know, you've got to print this out, sign it, post it back to us. It's really trying to address those pain points. So that's good. Internally we use Slack for communication, which is something I think we realised a lot of our clients were using, and we'd been using Teams previously, which works fine. But I think what we wanted to do is to offer, particularly with our subscription clients, we wanted to offer a sort of shared channel so we can have that kind of constant communication, or constantly available communication anyway. It's using the tools they use, and that's Slack is great actually, isn't it? It's, so we usually there's a lot of messaging internally throughout the day. You can jump on a call quite easily when we need to as well. What else do we use?
Oh, mine's gone blank now.
There's so many.
I know.
I think you've given a really good overview there of, and just showcased that you practice what you preach. You're pro tech, you're looking for efficiencies, but also you're putting the clients first, because where there's friction, there's frustration. You talked a lot about trying to create a seamless process there, and I think there's some really good messages coming out of this, that to start the firm there needs to be a process, to run a firm there needs to be processes, you need to adopt technology and think about things. And yes, there's a little bit of trial and error, but I just love the sort of approaches the two of you take to run your firm, because it obviously makes a lot of sense, because the more you can get this structure and organization in place, the more efficient you can be, and that's the reality. You want to run your business as efficiently as possible, and the fact that you say laptops, take them and away, we flip them up and we can get cracking again. I mean, there's not many other firms, some of the larger firms that can offer that right now. So you've got nimbleness, you can niche down, you can be flexible. And I think that's what's super exciting, and just wants me to loop back to the conversation about culture, because, you make a more flexible modern approach to culture. So do you just want to, Shona, maybe just talk us through the workplace culture you're aiming to sustain? Because I think it definitely sounds wonderful at the moment, but obviously as evolutions of businesses go on, how are you going to ensure you sustain perhaps the current culture, or indeed build on that?
Well, that's definitely something that is a challenge, and we do talk about it a lot. Is obviously, like I said, we obviously started just the two of us, and we were sat next to each other, so it was quite easy to communicate and check in with, do you want a coffee? You can't really make a coffee for someone when they're up in Manchester. So it's something we realised that we needed to be quite intentional about. So that's partly why the Slack channel works, because you can message and call individuals, but we also have a team chat, which can be for firm-wide messages, but also for silly Friday afternoon gifts as well, if someone's feeling bored. Not that anyone's actually got that much time to be bored, but you know what I mean, just to have that interaction, because we're not going to meet at the kettle or the photocopier. I mean, we're largely paperless, so not much photocopying goes on, lots of scanning, but so that's one thing that we're just constantly trying to make sure we remember, that we need to check in, make sure everyone's doing okay. And we've had a few team lunches courtesy of Deliveroo, partner with Deliveroo, where we sort of say, right, Friday lunchtime we'll have our team meeting lunchtime instead of in the morning, and everyone send me what they want, and I sort of scurry around sending deliveries to various different addresses, and actually they've all arrived. I always have a slight moment where I'm going, they're going to arrive, they're not going to get their pizza or their noodles, but actually generally everyone's got food within about 20 minutes of each other, and we sit and have a chat over, on a Slack video or Teams, whatever works, and so just to try and replicate a team lunch, a bit of a treat for everyone, and it's just thinking of more ideas as we go along. As we get bigger, obviously it would be harder to check in with everyone every day, so it's just being conscious of it, really. And
I think that, like you say, the intentionality is really key, and one thing we found is in terms of like having those conversations with people, as you get bigger you realise you need to actually put something in the diary. So with everyone I have a sort of monthly just check-in. Obviously we talk most days, but to have a sort of monthly check-in in the diary where it's just an opportunity to ask how things are going, what are you enjoying at the moment, any challenges you've got, anything you'd like to do differently, anything we can help you with more, and talking through those things. And sometimes it's a short conversation, and they're like, no, everything's fine, leave me alone. And but just having, I think you have to kind of make the effort to have those conversations, and I think as well, in terms of thinking about how we work, making sure that we are collaborating with each other. So what we were quite clear that we didn't want the firm to be when we set up is we didn't really want it to be just a whole load of individual sort of consultants sat in their homes working away on their own things on their own. That's not the point. We do want it to be a sort of team aspect to it, and so just making sure that we kind of mix things up a bit. We might put two different people on one project and they can work out how they're going to do it, or and everyone has their own different areas of strength. So making sure that we keep that fluidity. And it's really nice when you speak to someone and say, oh yes, I was chatting to another team member, and we haven't been involved at all. You can really see that actually that's happening, and they're sort of working together on projects. And as we get bigger, I guess we'll have to think about how we keep that going, whether you have in different teams that work together or how we do it is something we'll work out as we go, I'm sure. But it's there's a lot of learning as we go, definitely.
Yeah, and that's the reality of everything, isn't it? It's it's a journey, and sometimes there will be some bumps in the road, or sometimes you think something's gone fantastically well, and then the next minute something happens. But that's running business as well as obviously the day job. And I guess I want to stick with you, Alistair, because I'm passionate about this. People talk a lot about B2B and B2C, and it's my friend Joshua B. Lee who says that's all nonsense. It's all H to H, human to human, whichever way you look at it. And I think that lends onto what you've mentioned before. Law is all about relationship. Every business, no matter how big, is run by people, and if we're to understand our clients and serve them well, we have to connect with them on a personal level. So could you just give a couple of examples of maybe some that you've assisted, or the types of things that you've worked on, industries, and where they've come from? Because I think that's a really good quote that you shared there, and something that I stand by.
Yeah, okay. So examples. I mean, I think one example of how we do that is with our subscription package. so we've something we've started doing over a year ago is working with people on a subscription basis. So instead of being engaged to a specific project, we take a more kind of holistic view of their business, work out what their legal needs might be, agree a kind of scope and a monthly fee, and then within that it's largely unlimited. So, and the idea of that is partly that it gives us the opportunity to really get to know client, to get to know their business, to understand what they need, and to be on hand to give advice at a much earlier stage. So, one of the things we've been very aware of is that people don't like to get legal advice until it's absolutely unavoidable. Generally, it's either too expensive or it's just not. They don't connect with the lawyer or don't know a lawyer that will work in the way that suits them. And so for businesses to be able to have that ongoing support, we felt was really important for them. It's important for us because then we can give better advice because we know the business that much better, because we're on hand. We've redrafted the contracts. So the moment someone pushes back on a contractual term, we're there to say, well, we understand why it's there. We understand the parameters of what we can do to negotiate that. So it should make the whole thing kind of quicker and more efficient and more useful, I think, which I'm not sure if this is answering the question exactly. So, but I suppose when you say that it's about humans, I mean, that really is very true. I mean, no matter how big the client, it is about people, and you have to understand what it is that they want to achieve. So sometimes, when I was talking to a client this morning, actually, who we'd helped them with there's a shareholders agreement, and she said, it sounds like it's made up, but it is. I promise you, it's true. She said, oh, it's such a breath of fresh air, kind of dealing with you, because we had gone to another lawyer to prepare this shareholders agreement, and she just sent us these documents, and we didn't really understand them, or we had to go through and change so much, and it was all in this really difficult English, and it didn't. And I think what she was saying is that they hadn't really taken the time to listen to her or to understand what she wanted, and they hadn't then taken the time to explain what they'd done to help her, and so it was this really drawn out process where these documents were going back and forth, and they were too long and they were too complicated, and it wasn't really what they wanted. And so we were able to help them. I think we did stick with the initial documents, just made them shorter, more streamlined, and kind of helped to explain why they were the way they were. I don't think they were bad documents, but it was that kind of, it's coming back to that point about understanding people and thinking about how people feel, making sure that you've understood what they want and that you've communicated what you were doing and why, and that makes all the difference. I mean, they were really happy. The job, I think it was Jade. In fact, Jade and Neelam have done various things for this client, and it was quick, it was human, it was a pleasant experience, and that's exactly what we want it to be like dealing with 10 Legal.
So true, because you have to meet people where they're at, and I think with that, and I've had my own experience with setting up my own business and dealing with lawyers, and I always say, I work with lawyers day in, day out. I have my own legal talent solutions business and everything else, but I'm not a qualified lawyer, so I need you to treat me as idiot proof as possible and just explain this in simple legal terms and not bring the legalese. And I think when people understand that, meeting clients where they're at, that's where you build trust, because sometimes you lose trust when you over engineer your craft and people don't understand, and they think, well, what is that, and why is that suddenly costing me that, and it suddenly creates. So I think the fact that you did that and that's part of your process is so important, because you're meeting clients where they're at. And I guess that leads me to, before we sort of look to wrap up, Shona, about the future of 10 Legal. Obviously it's been an exciting journey. You were sort of born through the pandemic. I think that's a success in itself, and to where you are today. But what does the future look like for 10 Legal? What are some of your plans, and what are you hoping to achieve?
Well, I mean, who knows, to be honest. At the moment, we're happy with the way things are going, but I think we definitely are looking to continue to grow. But I don't think we haven't decided, where that growth will end, or with it, if it ends. We haven't put a number on how many employees we want to have or how big we want to get. We'd like to just keep working, getting some more clients in the sectors. Talking about tech industry and creative industry, the types of clients we really want to work with, grow our subscription model, and I'm guessing there'll be a bit more recruitment along the way, but just keep on going in a sort of natural way. To be honest, at the moment we haven't set our sights on any particular target at the moment, I wouldn't say. No. But just enjoy the process and yeah.
There's such an important point that you just landed on there about enjoy the process, because so many don't, and I always say to people, why do you do what you do? And some people will draw a blank, but when the fun stops, and I think, you're having fun right now. Of course there's challenges challenges, but I can just see it. I can hear it. You're enjoying running your business, and what you're doing for your clients. And that's what you need, because that passion combined with fun will pull you through whatever challenges or, opportunities that come your way. And, I've loved learning more about 10 Legal. I've been a big fan, followed Alistair yourself, particularly on LinkedIn, for some time now. So I guess if our listeners do want to learn more about 10 Legal, Alistair, what's the best way for them to contact you? Feel free to shout out any social media handles or website links. We'll also share them with this episode for you too.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn for me is really the main channel. Obviously, our website has more information about the firm, contact details if you want to email us. So it's 10.legal. We have an Instagram.
We have an Instagram page.
Firm
also,
Instagram page.
10 Legal Instagram page.
But yeah, those are the main ways.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face as a big fan of LinkedIn. I think it's one of the best places for business owners and people to network and meet right and like-minded people. So I'd strongly encourage to connect with both Shona and Alistair on LinkedIn. Thank you both, Alistair and Shona, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you and wishing you lots of continued success with the firm and your future careers and pursuits. But for now, from all of us on the Legally Speaking podcast, over and out. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like the content here, why not check out our world-leading content and collaboration hub, the Legally Speaking Club, over on Discord. Go to our website, www.legallyspeakingpodcast.com, for the link to join our community there. Over and out.